everyone. Welcome to another episode of My Take. We're really glad that you are tuned in to join in our conversation. My name is Tutu, and with me today are my girlfriends. Ladies, please say hi. Good, thank you.
Hello.
And we also have two awesome gentlemen, wonderful husbands to their beautiful wives. We have Lapo, say hi,
Good morning, everybody.
and Duni.
Good morning.
Thank you guys for joining us. My Take is a forum where we ladies hang out and chat about the happenings around us while lending our voices to some of the social issues in the world today. Our goal is to promote a culture of love and compassion, as well as truth and candidness. On today's episode, we will continue our series on debunking relationship myths. We'll be talking about issues that negatively impact relationships and how men and women may view this differently. We all know that every relationship has its fair shares of ups and downs. And when you ask most couples about how they have managed to remain successful in their relationships, you often hear it's about recognizing issues and addressing them right away and in the right way. So let's talk about some of the common issues that pop up in relationships, how men process these issues compared to women. And we'll also discuss ways that we can address these issues to build right relationships despite our differences. So, we're going to be starting with communication. Experts say that the biggest predictor of relationship problems is poor communication. It can be a challenge for couples to talk and resolve conflicts in healthy ways. Sometimes you just can't see things, you can't see eye to eye on certain issues. So first, I'm going to ask Lapo, how do you have healthy discussions on issues, big or small, and what has worked in your own relationship?
Thank you so much, Tutu. Like Tutu said, my name is Lupo Adeomi, and I've been married for 18 years. I would like to say communication starts with respect. I think mutual respect is one of the foundations of a healthy communication in a relationship. You both have to have respect for each other. So I'm going to speak from a man's perspective, and my perspective is I have enough respect for my wife to understand that we cannot always agree on every single thing. But because we have respect for each other, we can talk about it, right? Every captain needs a co-captain. I cannot be a captain by myself. And wisdom states that in order for you to be successful in marriage, you have to also implore all the advice that you can get, even within your marriage. And my co-captain is my wife. And because of the respect we have for each other, we are able to come to an agreement in communication about issues that we have. And the first step is just being able to talk about it. Let her be able to express herself. Oftentimes, you have the idea of what you want to execute or what decision you want to make, but it's very important that you also consider the person you're with, their perspective, because you might be shocked that the perspective that they may have on a situation or a particular subject can actually affect the way you think, and you can end up making a different decision. So I think it starts for me with respect. Having a mutual respect for each other it's a good thing that fosters good communication.
Thank you, Lapo. Um, Jumoke, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, well said, Lapo. I agree with him completely. I just want to add that depending on what the issues are, you might have to, you know, take a step back and actually listen more. I think sometimes in communication, we want to say what we want to say. Instead of listening, we're actually thinking of what we want to say. And if we recognize that, whether it be it in marriage, at the workplace, with your friends, and for some people, it's an issue. So I think for everyone, really, we have to take a step back and look to see if we have that issue and learn to listen more. I also know that in my relationship, sometimes when I'm saying something and I feel like my husband is not understanding, I actually ask him to repeat what I said. What did you hear? And then sometimes when he says it, I'm like, no, that's not what I said. So you'll be amazed. I think communication, nobody has it down packed. It's something we continuously work on.
Wow, very well said. I like what you said about, sometimes we're listening to reply. I know I can be guilty of that sometimes. So thank you for bringing that. And Lapo, I really like what you said about respect. I know that's another topic on its own, but thank you so much. Um, I want to ask Duni, um, what are healthy ways to deal with conflict? Is there a difference between how men and women handle conflict?
Um, you had to set me up with that one. I thought I was going to answer the easy question of how do you deal with communication. So thank you once again. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Duni Filani, and Lapo said, in line with what he did, I've been married for 11 years as well. You said, what are healthy ways of dealing with conflict? There's a challenge in that because conflict itself is not healthy. So you can't say there's a healthy way to deal with it. However, I understand what the question is. I think um, you first of all have to value the relationship. When you're looking at something that is about to cause a conflict, you have to look at the conflict. You have to ask yourself, how much value do I have in this relationship that then this person that I'm engaging in this conversation with. When you value the person above whatever it is that's causing the conflict, it allows you to kind of downtone what you're trying to achieve or what you're trying to do. And I'll give you a perfect example. If I can't work or function if I'm fighting with my wife. I can't. It's happened so many times that we had a fight on my way out to work, and I had to call on my way to work or just before I start work um, to let's talk about this. I'm sorry for my part in this issue. We'll figure it out later on when we get home, but I really don't want this stress of trying to figure out is my wife angry with me or not, and I apologize. So when you value that relationship, it allows you to see the conflict from a place of, okay, let's resolve this issue. I'm not fighting this person. It's an issue that we're trying to resolve. So keeping your eyes on the issue with with the purpose of trying to resolve the issue rather than winning over that person.
Mhm.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah, I
you.
just want to jump in here if I can. I think this point on conflict and communication, they are actually two sides of the same thing, right? Because I think a lot of times conflict happens in relationships because you're not
Mhm.
communicating properly.
Yeah.
And, in addition to respect and listening, I think you also have to even get to a place where you're like, you know what, I may hear what this person is saying and I still don't get it. I know because me and my husband see things very differently. And
Mhm.
one thing that I think really helped him was I said, you don't have to agree with me to understand that this is how I'm feeling about this
Mhm.
situation. So not just respect me, but respect my feelings. Because sometimes it's like, but I don't, and it happens both ways. Like, I don't understand why you're angry about this. Why are you upset about? Well, I am. So let's just respect the fact that this thing is upsetting me. So acknowledge my upsetness, even if you don't understand it. So I think that's also an important part because it's when you don't that you now escalate to like conflict situations.
Wow.
Yeah, I like to jump in here as well because communication was a big thing in my marriage early on. And my husband and I communicate very differently. One, I like to deal with things now, and he needs time to process and come back to it later. By that time, for me, energy has dissipated. I've moved on. And when he will, he'll just be quiet. He's pondering, he's praying. That can take a day, maybe 2 days. And I'm just like, by the time he's ready to talk about it, I'm like, we're still talking about this thing. So there's that one. And then he's orator, so he's very good with his words. He can come, he can communicate. He has processed it, so he can communicate his feelings. He can make his point. And I get emotional when I'm talking. And so I forget the point I was trying to raise. Time has passed. I don't know how to say it. Maybe he said something and, I'm trying to interrupt and he says, don't interrupt me. Let me finish. By the time he's finished, I've forgotten what point. So but when we were early in marriage, and I'm a good writer. So I used to write letter. I would write like 3-page documents. Point A, point B, point C. I'll fold it, I'll put it on the bed. He will come to the bed and you can hear him flipping the pages and just deep sigh, like, what is this? But it was a way for me to write my thoughts uninterrupted, remember all I wanted to say, my point. So he'll come down and meet me with the letter in his hand. And he's like, I can't believe you said this, this, this. I'm like, which one are you referring to? Page 3, paragraph 2, which one? So I think it's important, one, to understand how people communicate differently and figure out ways to meet people where they are. Because if he's trying to have a argument with me or communicate with me orally, like verbally, sorry, it might not work for me. And then if that's the only way we communicate, I might lose the opportunity to express myself, and vice versa.
Let me
And then
step in
this
right
is
here.
when people are ready to communicate as well.
Right, right, right. I'm just laughing and I'm excited that you shared that writing point. I think every man at some point in time that has not been able to communicate effectively has received a letter or an email. Hands up right here. I call them the epistle to the Olus. I think it's very important that respect and communication and just having a way to express yourself is very important in relationships. I grew up in a house with women. I have 5 older sisters and a mother, so I usually say I have 6 mothers. And I think part of growing up in the house of women with different sisters with multiple personalities kind of set me up for what to expect in marriage. You're dealing with older sisters. Each of them have different personalities from type A to type Z, anywhere in the middle of the range. And so when I met my wife and we started, a courtship, I realized that the communication style that I was used to was not what she was familiar with. My wife is the last born in her family. Everybody has always babied her. She's, her dad adored her mom adored her, siblings call her every week, even 18 years into marriage, So she's just one of those people that communication to her is softly spoken, and I come from a very strong, straightforward, you got to survival of the fittest. You got to stand up for what you believe in and, take the mantra. And so coming into a relationship with a woman that is soft-spoken, gentle, not abrasive, communicates effectively. If she's upset and she's happy, temperament is the same. And here I am. I mean, how do you communicate with a person when you're so used to fighting for everything and getting up and declaring your point? And so I had to learn how to communicate with my wife. And I think that's one thing that a lot of men have to do. The fact that you've worked out this way for you all your life doesn't mean that's the way it's going to work in your marriage. You have to learn and you have to be willing to learn. And part of that process is being able to allow the woman to teach you how she wants to be communicated with. A person can't teach you how to be communicated with and you'll be wrong. If I'm wrong, it's because you taught me the wrong way. So in order for me not to be wrong, it's a humbling process. And I had to humble myself and say, sweetheart, teach me how you like me to communicate. What's the best way to reach you? What's the best way to talk to you? What's the best time to talk to you? Is it in the middle of a conflict? Do you want us to have some time away from it? Do you want to write me letters? Please write me letters. I'll take time and read it. In the initial stages, I didn't like to read the letters. But after a while, I found that was the way she expressed herself. That's the way she communicated. And we gradually, graduated from writing letters to being able to have conversations, being able to discuss issues, because my style of communication did not work for her. And she didn't have to change. I had to change if I wanted to communicate with her. And part of that process, just being able to understand that this person is your bone of your bone and your flesh of your flesh. And you're going to have to make sacrifices if you want this relationship to work. And part of that sacrifice is humility. And that's what I learned, that I had to, humble myself to learn how she liked to be communicated with. So
Wow, that's great.
You know,
Thank you.
sorry, yeah, that was really awesome. One of the things that I learned early in marriage, and Lapo just confirmed that, is that um, one of the biggest causes of conflict is unmet expectations. But you can't judge me based off of expectations that I don't know. If I say what's wrong with you, and you say nothing, um, as far as a man is concerned, there's nothing wrong. I have learned quickly that if my wife says nothing, I don't just walk away, go turn flip channels and say, yeah, she's okay. No. And so the ability to recognize in the moment that there is an issue is very important. And by being observant, you will know if someone is happy with you or not. But like you said, when you have an expectation of someone else, of your wife or your husband, if you don't express that, it's hard for you to judge someone based of your assumption of that they should know if it hasn't been said before. I'll give you an example. When we first got married, I was very sarcastic, and my wife can't stand sarcasm. She just hated it, and she realized quickly that she had to let me know. So within the first year of marriage, I lived in England for a while, and the British can be very sarcastic. So I'd gotten used to expressing my lack of comfort in certain situations by being sarcastic, and she hated it. One day she called me and said, "Look, if you want to tell me something, just tell me. Don't use sarcasm. I don't deal with sarcasm. That it doesn't
Mhm.
work." In 11 years, I think I've done it maybe once since then, but I've learned that it doesn't work for her. And so the ability to listen to find out what works for the other person
Yeah.
is very important.
Thank you. And I like what you and Lapo said, and I believe Lola too and Faye, you all mentioned, learning the way the other party likes to be communicated to. And
Mhm.
close this, I know even though we are not talking about, how to apologize, I'm just going to close with this book by Dr. Gary Chapman. It's Five Languages of Apology. And it gives five ways, so I guess it behoves each person to learn how their spouse likes to receive apology. So the first one is expressing regret. I am sorry. The second is accepting responsibility. I was wrong. Third, making restitution. What can I do to make it right?
Mhm.
Four, genuinely repenting. I'll try not to do that again. Five, requesting forgiveness. Will you please forgive me? So we're gonna move on to the next topic, and I'll let Lola introduce the topic.
All right. Thanks, Tutu. So the next one we're going to talk about is money. Now, one of the most common sources of conflict in relationships is money, how to spend it, how to save for things that really matter. In fact, financial stress is one of the most cited marriage problems. Sometimes couples find themselves in a financial gridlock. One person is the spender, the other is the saver. So let's talk about, this issue of money and, what should a couple that finds themselves in this type of situation do? Where one spouse believes one way about money and the other does another way about money. Maybe we can start with Junie. What should a couple do when they find themselves in this situation?
Um, Thank you. So this is kind of a passion of mine when it comes to marriage, trying to figure out how to focus on finances. Because, like you said, the number one cause for divorce or conflict in marriage is money. And rich people have problems, poor people have problems, middle class
Mm.
people have problems. So the issue is not the money itself, it's the people that relate with the money. Now, the way I see it, um, in my personal opinion, there are three life paradigms that we all work with. Okay, first is opinions. That's whether personal or the opinions of the people around you. Two is the culture around you. What's the culture saying? And the third is your faith. Um, Whoever it is that you're going to get married to, if the two of you agree on what's going to form your life paradigm with regard to your marriage, it's a lot easier to handle money related problems, because if the issue is actually not the money, it's the issue is what's your basis for making decisions. If you both can agree on the basis for making decisions, even when it comes to money, making decisions will be a lot easier. And those are conversations. It doesn't happen overnight. There can't be, you both can't be savers. You won't have a life. You both can't be spenders. You'll be broke all the time. So a saver needs a spender needs a saver. So that a saver needs a spender so that you do have a bit of life. You know, you can buy stuff and acquire things. And a spender needs a saver so that when you're 60, you're not trying to figure out what your life is going to be like. And so it's a combination of and agreeing on that paradigm, and that's a conversation that needs to start happening even before you do get married. A lot of
Mhm.
times people don't talk about stuff like that before they get married, and then you find out that, hey, boom, well, I'm married to this person who believes when the paycheck comes, it has to get to zero before we do anything else. And the other person is, oh, we don't spend anything in our house unless it's absolutely important. Now, there's a conflict, and you have to find a place where you can get education. And I think that is key. Both of you have to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to, what are we going to, how are we going to work out how to save, spend, and plan for the future? Because then you have kids who are looking at you like, hey, what's going on? If you don't have a life paradigm that you're both working on, and for me, for us personally in our house, it's our faith and our trust in the fact that God is in charge of our finances, and He has a plan for our finances, and He has a purpose for us to use our finances. That's the basis for which we make our decisions, and that really helps. Before, for a while when we first got married, my wife was earning twice what I was earning. We live we've lived the same way at that time than now, and we're still living the same way when the roles have kind of flipped in a way. And so it didn't mean that we changed how we think. We just
Mm.
agreed on how where we're going and what we want to do with finances, and that's where I think is the primary thing that you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. You raised two excellent points that really resonated with me. One is that this conversation starts before you get married. If you're dating someone seriously, you're going towards marriage, start having a conversation about what do you feel about money? What are your, how do you envision us dealing with financial matters when we get married? And the second thing is education. A lot of people think they know what it is to know about money, and we all can use a little bit of education, wise counsel as well. What are your thoughts, Lapo?
Once I get the unmute monster out of the way, um, money is a big issue, and I think a lot of people are beginning to understand the importance of how to approach it in marriage. My personal belief is that there's always going to be one member of the marriage relationship that handles money better, right? And that stems from what I call ERM, environment, relationship, and mindset, similar to what has just been said. A lot of people's money habit stems from how they were raised. And
Mhm.
it's just a fact. What environment were you raised in? How was money dispersed when you were growing up? How was money spent when you were growing up? You pick up a lot of money habits growing up. I've been independent since I was 13. Went to a military academy for 6 years, and I've lived by myself since I was 13. So I've spent my own money and hustled my own money and made my own money. So my mindset about money is totally different from most people that had to start getting their independence at 18, 19, or 20 or 21. But I
Mhm.
come from I'm married to a woman who comes from a family where both parents were workers, had work, and same as my family. But her perspective of money was saving and only getting what you needed to get that was essential, right? Especially knowing the fact that she was also been independent since she was 16. She got into college when she was 16. And so when you combine both parties together, there's got to be a conversation. The good and the best part of the money conversation for my wife and I was it started when we were in courtship, right? It
Mhm.
started from the days when I used to live in Maryland and my wife lived in New York, and she'll come over to Maryland to hang out, and she'll see a stack of my bills on the table, and she'll open each and every one of them and pull up a spreadsheet and enter all the bills into a spreadsheet and put out my checkbook back then when we used to write checks and write out a check for each and every one of those bills, put stamps on the envelopes, put the checks in the envelopes, and leave them on my desk and say, this is what you're going to do. Right.
Mhm.
And so I started picking up habits in the way she processed information. The way I processed information was get the bill, open it up. Okay, I owe this bill. All right, write a check and send it. done, bill paid. But she started to show me that there was no way for me to actually track what I was spending and how much was coming in and what I needed to eliminate from the bills that I was receiving, which takes me back to my point that says environment, relationship, and mindset. My environment was not the one that she was in. My relationship with her helped me to see a different process of allocating and spending money and also tracking money. And then today, I mean, my mindset is of the fact that there's a budget. You know, I mean, we're talking, I've been with the same woman for 23 years, 20 years of relationship, 18 years of marriage. 18 years later, now it's all about budgets. Even my kids now have learned the habit of budgets. Like, you know, give me a budget at the beginning of the month. Let's discuss it. Is it necessary? Is it relevant? Is it a want or is it a need? And the ability to be able to humble myself in that situation where I knew my wife was better than me handling finances has actually saved my marriage, right? Because now I'm able to say, you know what, sweetheart, this is your department. This is what you're better than me at. I want you to take over this. It's not, you know, you see, what people don't understand is submitting to your spouse is a unisex word, right? I can submit to my wife in areas that she's better than I am because I want my family to progress, and she can submit to me in areas that I'm better than she is, right? But you as a man, the ability to submit to your wife in the area that she's better than you are is not a sign of weakness. As a matter of fact, it's a sign of respect, and you get that love back because your wife now sees you as a partner, someone she can communicate with, someone she can share things with, because you respect that she's better than you in some areas. So coming back to this, I would say is about, you know, environment, relationship, and mindsets.
I just
Yeah,
have to
just
echo.
wanted
I
to
have to
add.
echo Tosin.
Yeah,
I
sorry,
will-
sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to add one of the. That was excellent.
Yeah.
That was absolutely excellent what you just said. Just one thing to add to that, and coming from a background of, I'm originally from Nigeria. The mindset of the man is I want to be in charge. I also learned pretty quickly that if it was left for me to balance things in our house, would be broke on a, because I would forget. I wouldn't do things. And so when it comes to a budget, and I like what you brought up with regard to budget. A budget is simply telling your money where to go rather than wondering where it went. And that's the honest truth, because when you have a budget and you have a plan, the budget takes out emotions. The budget is your plan, and you can't be emotional if there is a limit. Money is finite. It's not an endless pot. If you have $1,000 and you have to break down the $1,000 to food, clothing, transportation, and shelter, if you spend that $1,000 on something that is irrelevant, you're going to be homeless, hungry, and you can't go anywhere. You understand? And so, knowing if your wife is better than you, then when it comes to handling money, please let her handle it, but don't just dump it on her. You have to have, this is where money conversations is actually one of the things that, when you communicate well when it comes to money, it is one of those things that it just promotes your marriage to a different level. If you can communicate well when it comes to money, you can talk about anything else.
Sorry, I just
A lot of the rules that we talked about in communication and conflict resolution, I would say this is with the primary place to test your communication and conflict resolution abilities, right? When it comes to money. And I know Tutu is very passionate about this area as well, so I'll let her weigh in.
Yeah. So first, Lapo, thank you so much for saying that submission is a unisex word. Um, I just want that word to resonate very well. And well, talking about money, I know Duni mentioned something about education, and I would like to recommend Financial Peace by Dave Ramsey. If you haven't gone through it, it's a good starting point. And then the other thing I would like to say about money is this, generally people say, oh, if spouses, put their money together, have a joint account, it would help their relationships. The truth of the matter is we need to have a balance. It is not going to work for everybody. So free yourself. The fact that you and your spouse do not share a joint account does not mean that your marriage is heading for the rocks. It's actually for the sake of peace. So if it works for you, I mean, there are some people that are spenders. They are not going to change. They've come to terms with who they are. So accept them for, who they are. So you that is the saver, don't now put yourself under some bondage thinking, oh, just to make my marriage work. So wisdom is you save. I mean, hopefully the spender will realize before it's too late, but at least you continue to save money. And if it means, having a separate account, then so be it. So I hope that helps some people, and some people also do, maybe they can have a joint account for their bills, and then, just to pay bills, and then they have their separate accounts. But do what works for your own marriage. Thank you.
I
Yeah,
think this
sorry,
is a
Faye, you wanted
fundamental
to say something.
part.
Okay,
Yeah, I
go
really
ahead.
wanted to jump in on this. Actually, you set it up well too. So I think the issue is larger than whether you have a joint account or separate accounts. I think it's really your attitude to the total pot of money that is coming into the household. I know that there are a lot of women, some of whom are my friends, that are like, his money is our money, but my money is my money. I don't think that that's a healthy way to have, to manage a healthy marriage. I think it should be, there is a, all the money is all our money. And if I'm rising up, it's helping us. If you are rising up, I'm helping us. Or else, this whole story of respect and everything. If my money is my money, I mean, then it really goes against what we're saying in terms of respect. So I think having that as a mindset also helps, because then you know that even if you don't have joint accounts, you can't just be spending money anyhow without discussing it, without having a joint agreement on how, what things are going to be in the house. I think that is also a source of conflict. So I really think that attitude part to the money that's coming is important as well. Just wanted to mention that.
Can
Yeah,
I just
I
add
agree. Yeah, go ahead, Jamaka.
I just wanted to add that people should really, really pay attention during the period of courtship.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people will save themselves the hassle, the trouble of the disasters that can be birthed through this opposing financial views, right? So you're a man, or maybe a woman, you're dating a man that believes, both of you are in the US or in the UK, and he believes in building houses in the village that
Mm-hmm.
nobody's gonna, go live in. Pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say, oh, I'm in love, he will change when we have 2 kids and all that. He will build those houses. And guess
Mm-hmm.
what? When he builds for his father, he will build for his mother in the village. Okay. So that means most likely you're going to be the one supporting the household, while both of you are working. And,
Mm-hmm.
just it has nothing to do with where the money is being deposited, whether it's a joint account or somebody's personal account. The money is being spent elsewhere. Pay attention to these things. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have to always bail the lady you're dating out, bail her out of financial issues while you're
Mm-hmm.
dating? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He spent her rent money on shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You're bailing her out and
Mm-hmm.
you go ahead and marry her.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, you're going to keep bailing her out for the longest time. I'm just saying. So pay attention to these cues. It's not going to
Mm-hmm.
get simpler. It's not going to get better. It's going to get worse, because we are all married on this panel. We know how we roll. So I'm just saying, if you're in the period of dating, please, please pay attention to how they view money, where they would like their money to go, what their long-term goals are. It's going
Mm-hmm.
to give you an indication of where the money will be going. So you have an opportunity to check out before you actually sign the document. Thank you.
All
Um,
right.
one last thing, for people that are not yet married, I honestly recommend, especially for those living in the UK, US, Canada, I recommend you both pulling up your credit reports,
Mm-hmm.
exchange it, and go through it. It will tell
Mm-hmm.
you the person's spending habits. So
Mm-hmm.
let's remove the spirituality. This is a great way to understand each other's financial habits.
I mean, well,
I just
look.
want to throw a quick joke in there. Make sure y'all ladies leave some room for the guy with the poor credit right now, because things might always change. So don't jump in my
Absolutely.
Yeah,
don't
I've
jump in
always,
anybody's
I've
credit
always
You
right
been,
know
now
what
I've
you
because
always been on the fence with the credit report. If
no,
I'm
but
dating you,
know
are
what you're
not pulling my
doing.
I,
credit report.
I
But
was
that's
just
just
teasing,
me.
ladies. I was just
Oh
teasing. I thought I'd
no,
throw
Yeah,
that
no,
out there.
actually,
it
it's true.
really
Like
is a
we all have,
discussion
we
point. I
all
think
have,
it's a
yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's
I
a
was
good
just
way
teasing.
to.
I was just teasing. I
No,
mean,
but it's valid
No, but
though.
it's
It's valid.
reality.
it is
You know,
true. It is true.
we read, you know what, we read all the time, whether we talk to people or we read on social media of, dear doctor somebody, my wife is sending money to her brothers and sisters, and this, and or my husband is building this, or he just bought a Range Rover, we have all these bills, and just different things. And I think what you guys have raised a good point is that we have to have a discussion. We have to have joint vision. Even if you keep separate pots of money, different account, joint account, the vision for the money has to be the same. You can't have division and, okay, this
Right.
is my money, this is my money. Okay, this is our money. We can have three accounts, a joint account, my account, your account, but still, let's talk about how overall money is going to be spent,
Let me share
because
a
we have
question.
joint children,
Let me,
or not, we have
joint
joint
children.
future. So we have to have a joint vision for it.
Uh,
So that's so important to have those conversations as well, and recognizing how what
that's
where
awesome.
people view and perspective about money comes from, and also what Lapo said about respect. And I think both of you said, Lapo and Duni, that you have to respect and you have to submit to each other. There's some things that I really, really want to do, and it's my money in my own account. And my husband is like, but the other day you talked about this other thing, and this thing just popped up, but you've been saving money towards this thing, what gives, and I'm like, okay, you're right, I have to think about it, or there's this other need, or something. So I think that communication respect has to carry through to money aspects as well.
Let me share some personal stories with you guys because you guys will get a kick out of this. And it is the process and the principle that has governed my relationship. I mean, we're talking 20 years now, 18 years of marriage. And I remember waking up one day. I almost felt like I was some sort of afternoon sleep, and I woke up, and the question the Lord asked me was, "What are you doing with my daughter?" Your wife, my wife, and she had hopes and dreams of things that she wanted to accomplish before she married you, right? But
Mm,
she's followed you every single where you've decided to pack up the family and go to. What have you done with her?
mm,
When was the last time you sat down with her and asked her about her goals or dreams and aspirations, the things she thought about, since she was a kid that she was going to do and accomplish for herself, irrespective of whether marriage was involved or not? And I had to
mm,
go back to the drawing board. I remember her coming back from work that day, and I sat her down, and I had a book with me, and a pen and a piece of paper, and the book was on top of the pen and piece of paper on top of the book. And I said, "Sweetheart, I want to talk to you. It's been a while since we had a conversation about what you want to do. I always
mhm,
tell you what I want to do, and you've always agreed with me on what I want to do. What do you want to do?
mhm,
Talk to me about some of your aspirations, goals." I mean, this was early in our marriage. Our oldest son was barely 1 years old at that time, and I was amazed because I ended up writing about maybe 5, 6 pages of stuff that I had to look at myself. I was like, I've been living with this woman for now for a few years, and I mean, I didn't know all of this stuff.
mm,
And at the end of that, the wisdom the Lord gave me was to separate those goals and dreams and merge them together with what I wanted and what my goals were. And so we
mm,
sat down and we looked at everything that she talked about, everything I talked about, and we broke it down into 3 phases. The phase one was when we're having kids, what we could do
mhm,
financially. This is a
mhm,
time for raising kids. If what you're looking for, what you're trying to do does not fit into phase one, then it's not going to happen, right? Can we agree? Yes. We looked at phase two is kids are older now. We're developing into our careers. We're moving on, combining work, life, kids together. And then phase three is, kids are grown, they're gone to college, 5 years from now, I'll be an empty nester. That's when we're going to really rock and roll because we've saved all this money, made all this
mm,
investment. And throughout the course of the relationship, when I'm about to make a big purchase, all my wife needs to do is look at me and ask me, is it phase one, phase two, or phase three? Right? And if it doesn't fit into phase two, because we're in phase two, then obviously it's going to move to phase three, right? I want to
mm,
buy, and it's so funny. I want to buy a set of clubs. They're $3,000, and my wife says, "Give me 6 months, I'll get them for you." I'm like, "I have the money now." She was like, "Oh, yes, you do have the money now, but that money is going to other things. But if you give
mm,
me 6 months, I'll get you a set of golf clubs." Now, golf is not a cheap sport. Anybody
mm,
who plays golf, it's a very expensive sport. But the respect, the understanding of what phase of life that you're in
mhm,
determines how you get what you want. And there's no fight, there's no emotion about it, because we
Right.
sat down together and
And
agreed on those
yes,
phases, right? And it makes the
absolutely.
understanding very clear. Now, when she pays herself and I pay myself and I run out of my budget, sometimes she'll come to me like, I know you want that so bad. All right, I'm not
Mhm.
doing anything with my budget. You go ahead and have it this time. And it's
Yeah.
fair, it's fun. It makes it
Yeah.
a friendly banter, friendly
Yeah.
relationship, and that's what it's all about. Just to be able to have that conversation, dialogue, make it fun. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be stressful, it doesn't have to be serious. As long as you're willing to submit to one another as what you have agreed on, I think that's what
Yes.
matters.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think that's a good segue into, the next point that Faye is gonna issue that Faye is going to bring up.
Yes, no, I'm really hoping as I'm listening to you guys that there are several guys on this thing. I hope you guys drew your friends in so that they can hear. I'm just really enjoying the conversation. The next issue that we want to talk about is one that puts a lot of strain on relationships. We've actually had a session on this before, but we found out there's so much to unpack that we need to kind of revisit it. And here it's about expectations regarding roles and responsibilities in the home. So, when you think about it, what constitutes traditional versus a non-traditional marriage, and who exactly determines the way responsibilities are allocated in the home? Is there a biblical approach to this? Dooney, let me hear from you first.
Uh, I always feel like I get set up with these type of questions. So when it comes to roles and responsibilities, the way to look at it, and I'll go back to what I said earlier with regards on what basis is your life paradigm? Is it based on culture? Is it based on opinion of people? Or is it based on faith? What you have to first of all figure that out. When you figure that out, if you say it's based on, like I said, for us in our family, it's based on our faith in God. The Bible says the man is the head of the house. It didn't say the man is the Lord and master of the wife. The man is the head of the home. Okay. Yes, you are the head of the home. There are responsibilities that are assigned to you being the man and being the head of the home. You're the pastor, the prophet, the preacher, and the one that guides the vision of the home. But the woman is there as your helper, and she's not there as your servant. Okay. Now, having a clear understanding of what Ephesians says, where it says, submit one to another as unto Christ. That's the first thing before it talks about wives submitting to your husband. And if you look at the responsibility of the husband, it's even harder than the wife, because it says, husband, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself for the church. Now, do I want to get home? So there's certain things that we look at in my house, okay, dealing with the car broke down and those type of things. Hey, as a man, I want to be able to handle those things. But it doesn't mean that I get home from work. My wife has been with two kids all day. She has her own job. She's been working. The house is upside down, and I walk away angry because my house is upside down. That's ridiculous. I as we've never, it's been the two of us since we've been married. We've never had a nanny or anybody else in the house helping out. Maybe mothers-in-law, my mother or her mom when the babies were born. But beyond that, it's just been the two of us. Are there plates in the kitchen to be washed? I wash it. I do it. I'm not ashamed of those things because I look at those things as things that I do because they're necessary. If it's my if there's something to cook, my wife hates me making some sauce that I used to. I haven't made it in 6 years. Since the day she complained about that sauce at a marriage seminar, I stopped making it. I said, "You
Please, what
never
sauce
told
is
me at
this?
home."
What kind of sauce is this?
It's a spaghetti sauce. I stopped. I said when I was single for a long time. I was the last person to get married in my family. But hey, it worked for me. And I thought it was nice. I thought I was doing something good. It's spaghetti sauce. But she was like, that thing is disgusting. And she said it at a marriage seminar. I'm like, wow, really? You had to come out here to come put me out there like that? Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, I haven't, it's been 5, 6 years. I've not even tried to make it again. Anyway, but so when it comes to roles and responsibilities, what's your life paradigm? How do you see, if what is God telling you as a man? Is God leading you to be the person that beats down his wife as she has to do this, she has to do that? Or are you see excuse me, are you seeing it as we're in this together? Yes, I'm the head of the home, but I'm not going to go off of culture. I'm not going to go off of people's opinion. I'm going to go off of what does God's word say a man's role is supposed to be. When you listen to the Holy Spirit, there will be times that there are certain things that you will do that will be out of the norm for culture, out of the norm from the opinion of those people around you. But because the Holy Spirit asked you to do it, your wife will think you're a superstar. And those type of moments really helps me out as a person, honestly. So I don't there are no traditional roles as far as I'm concerned. I believe there's God, there's the man, and there's a woman right beside the man, and we're all focusing on obeying God and obeying God's will.
But
Wonderfully said. Wonderfully said. I need to share this particular episode with all the men I know.
That's
Lapo, I'm
awesome.
looking forward to hearing from you. I really loved what you said about sitting with your wife on her goals and all of that. But I'd love to
Eh,
get your take on this,
It's
please.
again, I'll go back to how you were raised. I think it matters a lot how you're raised as a man or a woman. I grew up in a house with women, and so I was domesticated for however way you want to express that. We had people that were around that worked for the family, but my mom insisted that I learn how to do a lot of things, cook, clean. And I went to a military school, so you kind of develop a lot of cleaning habits, because of that environment, right? I iron my clothes. My kids tease me today because boxes is still part of an ironing process. I'm like, Dad, you iron your boxes. My God, you iron your undershirt. It's underneath your shirt. Nobody's gonna see it. I'm like, yeah, but if I put my shirt over it, the crease under the shirt is gonna show up on my shirt, and I don't like that. I say all of that to say it depends on how you were raised, right? My wife grew up with boys. I grew up with girls. So we have a reverse role in our family. Like majority of the things that is meant to be socially acceptable for the woman to do is what I do in my house. I cook, I clean. My wife loves to cook. It's therapeutic for her. Before we got together in marriage, when we were still courting, I cooked for her all the time. It was my treat. She's coming from New York. I'm Nigerian. My wife likes pounded yam. She likes Amala our favorite food. And so I learn how to do it. I make it for her. She eats it. But now the roles are reversed. We're married now. Cooking for her is therapeutic. But I iron clothes. I fold clothes. I do laundry. My mindset to roles and responsibility is what is it that is going to make my wife feel less stressed, right? Because we both have a 9 to 5, we both have kids. I'll tell you, the one I don't do is homework. That's a struggle for me because I can't do it, but I don't have the patience that my wife has dealing with my kids. So she usually would exclude me from homework, but I would do all the science projects and every other project that has to do with that. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, what makes my wife less stressed out? Because and when we get to the end of our day, kids are in bed, there's still a magic kingdom waiting to happen. And you can't expect somebody to put on an outfit and swing on a chandelier after all day work, 9 to 5, just like you did, come back into the bedroom, take a shower, and you expect to get lights out. It's not going to work that way. Like magic kingdom don't happen without a little bit of magic. And
Only happens in movies.
in order for you to experience magic kingdom, you have to make sure there's enough reserve in her tank to be able to do what she has to do to make sure that you experience magic, or vice versa. And if most men don't understand that, you both do 9 to 5, you both have kids, she comes back from work, she cooks, she cleans, caters to you, gets to get the kids in the bath, give them a shower, read them a bedtime story, put them to bed, come into the bathroom, take a shower, come back to bed, and you expect that day to just begin for her. It doesn't work that way. What you're gonna get is take and leave me alone. But if you really want magic, you gotta help out. If she gives the kids a bath, put the clothes on, put the PJs on, put them into bed, right? Give her an avenue to have about a couple of hours of downtime before Magic Kingdom starts. I don't know how it works for other men, but I'm just looking for the least part of stress for my wife. And if that means vacuuming, doing the laundry, ironing clothes, so be it. At the end of the day, I'm looking forward to Magic Kingdom. Disney
I
Awesome.
will
hair.
never see
Just,
Disney
to
World the
add,
same
yeah,
again.
yeah, just to add to that, and you brought up something, Lapo, that I really like. You see, for us, you talked about laundry. I fold the laundry in our house. I'm not ashamed to say that. My wife does the laundry. I fold it on Sunday evenings. We don't go anywhere. I iron the clothes. We're watching a movie together. We spend that time together. It's for me, it's therapeutic, as it were, to iron clothes to prepare the kids for the week. Um, I think that when you, and I like what you said about where you grew up. I don't remember my dad going into the kitchen for anything. Not at all. Under no circumstances going to the kitchen for what? Maybe he came in to say, I want this. Doing laundry, yeah, ironed his own clothes, yeah, fine. But I still learned that for him, it was important to make my mom happy in everything that she needed. He worked hard to provide. And like you said, yeah, Disney World is going to be interesting to go to now. But anyway, um, you don't expect your only in movies do those type of things happen, that the woman has done all that work and all of a sudden you're rubbing her back. She's like, what are you touching me for? Get out of here. You have to prepare and make sure that she's not all stressed out. When I get back from work in the evening, my wife works from home most days. I'm most times the only adult conversation with a human being that she's had that day. I have to recognize that for a while, I'll just get home, I'm tired, just go to bed. And she has to tell me, look, dude, it doesn't work that way. I've been sitting down in front of a computer handling two kids all day. You're the adult conversation I'm having, and you can't just fall asleep and not do anything. And I realized, hey, I have to help out in the home if I want her to not become my mom. She's not my mom. Yeah, she's my wife, and I have to do whatever I can to make her happy and make her comfortable as
Oh,
well,
no
and not
Magic
stressed
Kingdom for
out.
you, bro.
God, no,
No
nothing,
Magic
nothing,
Kingdom. I
nothing,
love it. I love
nothing.
it.
No Magic. Listen, it's a reality. It's a reality that a lot of men face, and I'm so grateful to my wife that she brought me into this conversation very early in marriage when we had our son. And she'll wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning when she's breastfeeding him to go help make a bottle or just burp him after she breastfeed. I'm like, I'm getting ready to wake up at 5 so I could get on a train to go to work. I used to work in DC then. And I used to get mad in the initial stages that she'll wake me up or she'll give him to me, go change a diaper. And then one day she sat down and said to me, she said, you know, I don't want you to feel left out of this process because I don't have the entire time to myself that I had before, that it was just you that I was catering to. I have a newborn now and I need you to be part of this process. That's why I wake you up and I give you the opportunity to experience what I experienced so that you can understand what it is like if you come home and there's still bottles that need to be washed and I ask you to please help me take that squeegee thing and wash the bottles and dry it up. You have to learn to get into your wife's world. You have to learn to be in the space that she's in because it will give you a total understanding that leads to compassion. Sometimes we men go about our business, we come back and we expect certain things to be done and they're not done. But you don't understand what has transpired toward the course of that day. By getting into her world, getting involved with what she's doing and the rituals that she has to do for the children, for the family, for the end of the day, you get to have a clear understanding of what her day has been like that has not allowed her to get to the point of what she needed to do for the house. And in so doing, you're also communicating love to her. You're telling her that you're helping. You're telling her that I'm here for you. It's not just about Magic Kingdom. I want to get to Magic Kingdom, but I'm going to do whatever it is to make sure you're happy and you're in the right frame of mind so that we could be together in Magic Kingdom. And it's a lot of sacrifice you're going to have to make to get to that point. But you have to value the person that you're with. You have to value your emotions. And part of being able to do that is spending time together. It might be doing chores. Who cares? The bottom line is you're together. Then she can download to you how her day has been. She can ask you questions or talk to you about things that has happened throughout the course of the day. So you're just not every single day being a stranger in your own home. And then you want to take her out on a Friday night for a date. No, Jack. Take her out on a date to the kitchen and wash the dishes and have a conversation with her. So that Friday night when you take her to the movies, it can be not about the dishes or about the chores in the house, but about both of you. So it's not the every once in a while big splash thing that you do that I found out as a husband that matters is the everyday thing, see dishes in the sink, wash it, see her clothes, a jacket not being dry cleaned, drop it up at the dry cleaners, see her trying to get ready in the morning and she hasn't ironed her clothes, iron it for her. It's the little things that make a woman think of you in a different way. And guess what? When you get to Magic Kingdom, it's going to be a blast. You're going to be on a roller coaster. I tell you,
Yeah,
try
Thank
it.
you so
you
much,
know,
I mean,
Lapo.
yeah,
I
you
mean,
guys are really dropping
yeah.
some serious
yeah.
nuggets here. I have to
Just
say.
just to add to that, the concept of um, you're doing this thing not just for Magic Kingdom, and that's and that I think is also important to think about it from a perspective of, look, I honor women, all the women on this screen right now, mothers. Honestly speaking, I don't if the world if things were flipped and men had to be mothers, forget that. The population of the world will be less than half right now. I sometimes look at my wife and I wonder how she does it. I'll be honest with you. You guys, I honor you guys as wives, as mothers, because there is a seed that I believe God has placed in a woman that men can never understand. I tell you that because my wife, I don't know how she does it. Because that homework thing you talked about earlier, man, if we do homework, is going to cause huge issues, and so I don't do it. But I think it's important to recognize that when you are in a position to be of assistance, and you're not just assistant because you're looking for something, you're assisting and you're helping and you're performing your own role, and you don't see it as, oh, this is beneath me. That really helps. And when you look at something as beneath you as a man, I say this to people who are not yet married: take your ego, a man, put your hands under your butt and sit on that ego, because it'll get you into trouble if you're allowing your ego to determine what you do in your home.
Yeah. I think living abroad, I think this aspect is hard for people who are coming from maybe having grown up in Africa, where you get all this other support. There's tons of people living in your house, cousins, aunties, house help, whatever that can help. When it comes to living abroad and it's just you and your wife, at some point you got to just throw this roles and I mean, it doesn't make sense, especially if the two of you are working. It's like, bro, we messed up the house together. We're cleaning it together. I just came home from work. You just came from work. Choose which one you're doing. Let me too choose which one I'm doing. Let's get this thing, sorted out, and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you so much. It's amazing how, time flies without you realizing it. It's been a great conversation. Thank you, Lapo. Thank you, Duni. We covered a lot today. And thank you for joining us. Today, we talked about communication. We talked about money. We talked about resolving conflict in a healthy way. We even squeezed in Magic Kingdom. I read Ope saying he's going to do the dishes. Magic Kingdom, here I come. So Faye, get ready. But anyway, thank you everyone, and we look forward to seeing you at our next episode, which is going to happen on Saturday, October 16th. We'll be wrapping up our conversations on relationships. Thank you for joining us. Please join us for part 2 of Debunking Relationship Myths. So on behalf of everybody, we'd like to say goodbye and thank you.